Howdy, partners. Welcome to episode 22 of the show where we stay away from LA and discuss the rest of the West. We're going to shoot up that Pacific coast to welcome in my favorite Andrew's sister, Kendra
Oh,
Andrews.
wow. Wait, can we just, can we clip that intro? Can we clip that intro right there?
Yes. Am I not
Send it
allowed to
out
be
to,
honest? This is a show where we have brutal honesty on this
Wow.
show. Welcome in Kendra Andrews, who does such an amazing job of covering the Golden State Warriors. Kendra, how are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
Doing phenomenal. And those Warriors are doing, to be real honest, a hell of a lot better than anticipated, given that Steph Curry just got back from an extended absence. And look, part of this is you look at that, from five down in the West, nobody else is winning a whole lot. But for the Warriors to be in the 5 seed, coming out of Steph's extended absence, they've got to feel pretty damn good about that, considering they've been, in that play-in position for most of the season. So, Kendra, what I want to do with you today is let's discuss reasons that we believe the Warriors can win a title or defend their title. We know they can win a title, can defend their championship this season, and then reasons for doubt. Look, if we're starting with reasons to believe, I think the obvious one is because we've seen them do it before, and we've seen them do it 4 times. The guys who have been part of this, what kind of sense do you get from them as far as their level of confidence against concern at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some confidence. I think Klay Thompson is the most outwardly confident in saying, he said it really all season long, I'm never betting against us. I'm never counting us out. After their loss to the Lakers on Sunday, Steph said the same thing of, I have complete faith in us. Draymond's been saying it, until someone beats us, we're not going to say that we're beatable, right? Until someone proves that, we're not going to say that we're beatable. And Steph made an interesting point that the Warriors are in a unique position right now. They're a team, they're one of the few teams on this bubble of the play-in, playoff, falling out of all of it, that are in that situation with actual, I don't want to say the only ones with tangible championship aspirations, but ones that can say that we're in this situation and there's a whole pack of believers who think that we can go and win this. There are not many teams, Tim, that I've been speaking to in the Western Conference. I'm sure you've been hearing similar thing, that want to face the Warriors in that first round because of the way that they can just turn it on automatically. There's some symmetry between what they're going through now and what they went through toward the end of last season, where they were welcoming Steph back from an injury. They hadn't really been healthy all season long. They were either missing Klay, Draymond, or Steph. This season they've been without Steph, Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton II was required. He's still out. But once they hit the playoffs last season, they just ran away with it. And there is some optimism that even though this season's a little bit different, that once they're fully healthy, that they're going to be able to hit a stride in the playoffs. And also, they always take their game up to a whole new level in the playoffs because this team just lives for the postseason.
Yeah, and look, they're still waiting on Andrew Wiggins. He's been out. He was out for a while with injury. There's personal reasons now. My understanding is there's not like a certain time that he's going to be back. Hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully everything's okay on that front. But I mean, when they have that starting lineup together, they are the net ratings plus 21.9. They're outscoring teams by 22 points per 100 possessions when they have their starting 5 on the floor. And again, it's not just that, wow, that's a really impressive number. You saw that starting 5 last year win 4 playoff series, win a championship. So that's why even when they were floating around, 9, 10, 8 in that play-in territory, it's like you couldn't just dismiss the Warriors. You can't just, count out, not just, I always say Rudy Tomjanovich's old quote, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Well, never underestimate the heart of a dynasty, especially. These guys have, a lot of them have 4 championship rings. Now, let's get to the doubt side. We'll bounce back and forth here. And I am
Mhm.
scrolling, I'm about to scroll the standings here so I can find that road
As
record.
yeah, what is it?
And,
7-24 or something like that?
and there you go. It is exactly what you just said, 7-24. There are two teams in the NBA, two, that have worse or fewer road wins. There's three with worse road records. The Pistons are 7-26. The Spurs are 6-27. The Rockets are 6-27. The only way you want to be in company with those teams is if you're, hoping you've got a shot to get Victor Wembanyama.
Victor.
That's not the company that the Warriors are trying to keep. And like, it's crazy because, this is a team that, or a franchise, and several players that have been part of all these series, they have the NBA record for the most consecutive playoff series where they've won at least one road game. I think, what is it, 27,
Mhm.
28, whatever it is, it's an
Yeah.
incredible number. This is a veteran team. Do you have any theory for why they have been that awful on the road?
I wish I had some insights and some knowledge, because the thing is, Tim, when you ask people around the team, like I asked Draymond the other day, and he
Mm-hmm.
said the same thing I just said to you. He goes, Kendra, if I had the answers, you better believe that I would be shouting them from the rooftop, that I would tell you, I would be telling everyone, because it's something that it doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of it has been execution, and specifically defensive execution. I was talking
Mm-hmm.
with Zach Lowe the other day, and their perimeter defense in particular has been pretty poor, and it's
Mm-hmm.
poorer on the road. But that doesn't explain. That's kind of like the okay, like the why are they playing worse? But it doesn't explain the why that they're playing worse. If that makes any sense. It's like they're
Right.
losing
Look,
games because
yeah.
their defense is poor. But why is that?
Right. And
There is
and
no clear
and
answer.
and they're phenomenal at home. They're 27-7
Right.
at home, even
Right.
with all the injuries that they've had, even with, Klay understandably needing to ramp up early in the season. Like, they've been great at home. To be that bad on the road is bizarre for a team with not just this much experience, but this much championship
Yeah.
experience. It's just,
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed, and it started a little bit at home this past homestand, but it's really been all season long, is for the past during that 5-game home winning streak, by the way. But
Mhm.
they started maybe 3 of those 5 games they trailed by, or maybe 4 of them they trailed by double digits in the first half. I mean, against the Blazers, they were
Yeah.
down 20 plus, and they were able to come back. But even on the road, all of their road losses, I think that they were trailing by a good chunk in that first, and they're able to fight back and to claw back and put themselves right there, but they're not able to close out and get over the hump. Recently, they've been learning how to close games overall, and they've been doing that at home well, but still on the road, they're losing. A lot of these losses on the road aren't blowouts. And I don't know if that's a good thing
Yeah.
or a bad thing, because you don't want to necessarily lose to the Charlotte Hornets by the skin of your teeth. That's not a good thing either. But they're holding on right until the end, and then it's just a couple lapses, a couple miscues, a couple things that then
Mhm.
result in a loss.
Yeah, and look, when you talk about you're going to have to win on the road in the playoffs to get out of the West, there's
Yeah.
a decent chance that's going to mean you're going to have to win in Denver, where they're now 30 and
Yeah.
4, the best home record in the league. Obviously the Grizzlies have some major issues of their own, but like, that could be a first
Yeah.
round matchup if the Grizzlies,
Yeah.
bump down a spot or two. They're 26-5 at home,
Right.
and let's all hope that by the playoffs that John Moran is back on the floor and in a good place.
Mhm.
But yeah, again, it's really just
Yeah.
a strange thing for a team that
Yeah.
is. There's no reason for Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, this group, Kevon Looney, to be rattled on the
Mhm.
road. So it's just
Yeah.
bizarre. Let's get back to another reason for optimism. Klay Thompson is back to being that dude. I mean, whoa. Hey,
Mhm.
Charles Barkley, Klay obviously took offense to what Barkley said earlier this season. I thought that Barkley was just speaking the truth, and that was like he wasn't trying to pile on, but it's just like he basically said Klay's not the player he used to be, and you can't expect him to be with a coming off a major knee and an Achilles. Since January 1st, Klay Thompson is averaging 25.8 points per game, shooting 44% from three-point range. He's as good as he ever was. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because speaking to him when Steph was out, right? That's when he had that 42-point performance, hit like 13 three-pointers again, those types of things. Hearing what Barkley said at the start of the season of he's not the same Klay Thompson. You're right. I think that hit Klay in a spot because he believes his mindset was at least like, no, like I am, as long as I can shoot the ball, like I am. And he was trying to prove Barkley wrong and also prove himself right. But I think there's been a mindset shift over the past few months. And Klay's spoken about it, is like when he was trying to do that, compare his new self from his old self, he would force things. He wasn't playing within the flow of the game, which is when he's the best version of himself. Now he's allowing himself to, like, he's never going to be the person that he was, but he's adding to his game. He's finding ways to evolve his game. Steve Kerr said that he sat down with him and said, look, as guys get older in their career, they have to figure out how to adapt their game. And he talked about Michael Jordan as an example. He talked about other, greats who added new skill sets. And so Steve said, look, Klay, I want you, of course, to shoot the ball whenever you feel it's right. Start rebounding more. Let's step out, like start passing more, assist more. And it's all and so now you're not only seeing him shoot incredibly, his game is just becoming more well-rounded. But at the end of the day, once he stopped trying to prove people right or wrong, that's when he started to turn this corner and really return to just the pure scorer and pure shooter and pure player that he is. And it's one of those things you always, like, if you're not a fan of Klay Thompson, then you're not a fan of basketball. And it is one of those things that's like, you just root for that guy, especially everything that he's been through. So it's been a really nice thing to see him kind of come around and have these really solid performances.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't enjoy watching Klay Thompson when he gets hot, come on now. Like what are you doing? What you need to go, like, what's wrong with your life? Let's unpack some things here. And look, he has saved their season, because you look at, like, when he's taken off, Steph has been out for a lot of this time. When he had 54 against Atlanta, Steph's not in that game. You mentioned the game in OKC, this recent stretch, like, they were able to keep their heads above water with Steph missing a lot of time because Klay was carrying them. And so, like, this isn't just, hey, Klay's been able to knock down open shots because there's so much attention being paid to Steph Curry. This is like, you can game plan for Klay and he's still, going to be able to score, 25, sometimes 40, 50, 54 points efficiently. And look, there's obviously a shooter like that, there will be some nights where it doesn't go in. But again, when you talk about what he's done, shooting 44% for, a 2+ month stretch where they really needed it, like, it's fun to watch. I didn't think we'd ever see him be this good again. And it is a reason to think that he's given Golden State a chance to win another title. Now, speaking of shooting guards who launch a lot of threes, let's get to the reasons for concern here. And you know where I'm going with this.
I do.
Jordan Poole got a nice fat contract, earned it with his performance last season, through that championship run. He's averaging 21 a game, but the man is shooting 32.8% from 3-point range. You're being paid a lot of money to be a premier shooter. I don't need you hanging around with Draymond Green as far as that shooting percentage goes, or maybe in any other way, shape, or form.
Category.
But what's up with Jordan Poole?
Yeah, I mean, it is his efficiency, right? Because there are some nights, it's funny that I'll be watching a game and I'll look at the box score and I'll see him have 21, 25 points. And then, you look at the shooting splits. He is a guy who, we've talked to Steve and Jordan and other players a lot about his shot selection. It's funny, even just the other night, Steve was asked, did early in your career watching Steph launch those threes that make you shake your head until they go in, did that prepare you for Jordan and Poole in a way? Because he is going to take several ill-advised shots per game. Like, it is just going to happen. I think Steve is at a point where he will advise against it, but knows he has to live with a couple because that's just kind of what Jordan does. But as far as his productivity, he's an interesting player because he is better in the starting lineup without Steph. And that's good. Dates back to, last season is when he really emerged. I mean, they had a solid emergence all season long, but it was when Steph was out towards the end of the year. And then through that first round of the Denver series where he was starting in place of Steph, that he just started to explode. And even this season, like, you have to commend the guy for being able to jump in and out of the starting lineup and adjust to whoever is or isn't available. But he is a much better player when he's a starter, and usually when Steph isn't out there. So seeing him kind of take those shots, maybe you think this is something that will change over time, that he'll mature into not taking every shot that he sees fit, or is 5 feet from behind the 3-point line with a defender in his face with 13 seconds left on the shot clock. Maybe that will change, but I think there's also a feeling of this is who he is, and you have to live with some of them, not all of them, but some of them. But he's an interesting player.
Listen, living with some of them is you got to make more than 32.8%, right? That, like, you can get away with questionable shot selection if you're a guy who's making a decent percentage of those tough shots. But I've never in my life seen shot selection that was so egregious that it got your superstar teammate kicked out of a game. Steph Curry got kicked out of a game because he was so pissed off about one of the shots that Jordan Poole took, where he chunks his mouthpiece.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's not a, oh, I was just frustrated with that one moment. That's like, are you kidding me again? That there was a lot of frustration that boiled to the surface in that moment, I would say.
I would 100%. I'd almost forgotten about that moment. So thank you for actually reminding me.
I forgot. Was that against the Grizzlies?
It may have been. It was a close game down the stretch.
I might have the team wrong, but then Poole got the back cut for the game-winning layup at the end, and Steph's was waiting for him in the hallway, like, all right, man, I guess.
Yeah, and there are a couple of those moments, but it is something that, after those moments or in other times, again, when he shoots something super early in the shot clock that was just unnecessary. It's a conversation that is consistently had around, between Jordan and coaching staff, right? And probably Steph as well, probably Draymond as well. And just calm down, right? A lot of the time Jordan, but whether it's shooting or even I see sometimes when he's handling the ball, it's like his brain is working a million miles an hour and his body isn't moving as quickly to keep up with what his brain wants his body to do. And he gets frazzled and he either turns it over, he takes an ill-advised shots. And so they've really been preaching to slow down. It will be okay. Either your shot will be there, you will find the pass to make. Like when Steph went out, Jordan was assisting like crazy. If you just slow down, take a bigger perspective, take a bigger look, like big overview picture of what's happening on the court right now, you can make the right decision. You've done it before, but you just have to take a breath and not just start launching things or trying to do it, I don't know, cross people up all the time and make the highlight reel. Sometimes you want to be a little bit highlight reel. And especially in tight games, like when Steph threw his mouthpiece and got ejected, that's not what they need. They need to just execute the play.
Well, and there's a fine line here, because there is, like, you to be that type of player, whether it's, starting shooting guard who's a scorer or a sixth man who, like, your job's to come in and get buckets. There is like a massive level of confidence is required. And I would say a borderline irrational confidence is required. And it's interesting. I was talking to Spencer Dinwiddie earlier in the season and talking about fitting with a superstar. This is when he was with the Mavericks. And obviously they decided, well, we need a better player to fit with a superstar because now he's in Brooklyn. But, you know, he was talking about how you have to have, you know, to be that type of scorer, to be a, you know, guy who's like you're being paid millions of dollars to put the ball in the hole, you have to have a certain level of irrational confidence. But to play with a superstar, you also have to have a self-awareness, like understanding, like, listen, I'm playing off of these guys. And in his case, it's not just Steph Curry, but it's also Klay Thompson. And so I think this is a deal where a young player who obviously has accomplished a lot and has a lot of ambition, figuring out exactly kind of, you know, where those parameters are for himself.
Yeah. And I think quickly, I think that's one of the reasons why probably when he is a starter, because when he's a starter, it's either when Steph or Klay is out, usually. He doesn't have to find that parameter as much, right? He doesn't have to, it's usually only one of those guys he has to figure out how to play off of. And he has a little bit more slack on what the team is willing to let him do because he's stepping into one of their roles.
Yeah, but we're talking about reasons the Warriors can or to doubt them winning a championship. And I'm telling you, if Steph Curry ain't on the floor,
no, I mean I'm with you there. They're not doing it. They're not.
This is not a conversation. Let's talk about another young player here, and I'm going to put Jonathan Kuminga. Right now, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? This is a reason to believe that the Warriors might be able to make another title run. Obviously, Wiggins has missed a lot of time. You know, Kuminga's role is increased because of that. But, you know, I'm looking at a 20-game sample size here where he's averaging 11 and change off the bench, you know, shooting 52% from the floor, 45 from three, not high volume, but like if a guy is shooting it that well, you know, it's not like you're leaving him alone in the corner and saying, we dare you to take that shot. So that certainly helps. And then like the one thing that's always been there is like the combination of athleticism and size for his position, you know, the potential to be just a defensive difference maker. Is this something we can anticipate continues for Kuminga?
Yeah, I think so. I think when they acquired Kuminga in that 2021 draft, like they saw him as someone who was going to need some development, need some work, but he's progressed so quickly. His scoring, the shots, again, the shot selection for him has improved so much from his rookie season. Again, we're talking about Jordan Poole just taking time and not forcing things. And the same thing goes for Kuminga. When he takes time to really look at the court, see what's playing out, he makes excellent decisions. He sees a little gap and he can take full advantage and just his athleticism, just get to the hoop and usually rise above it and finish it in some crazy athletic way. His defense has been a huge thing for them, especially as you said, with Wiggins being out. And they lost a lot of their key defensive players from last season, like Otto Porter Jr., GP2, those kinds of guys. Andre Iguodala only being available for a handful of games this season. Seeing the way that he's developing into a two-way player is really exciting for this team. And something that Draymond said a couple months ago that stood out to me. We were talking about defense, and Draymond said, people think that I play team defense. That's true to a certain extent, but when you're so good at a certain skill set, like Steph Curry is on offense, I am on defense, teams will build their system around you. You become the centerpiece for everything they do. Jonathan Kuminga has that potential on defense. This is what Draymond said, is that he has the potential to become just a defensive centerpiece for an organization, for a team. And I think that to say that so early on for someone who was fouling like crazy at the start of the season, who maybe would miss some rotations, to see him grow into a guy who's now taking on Kawhi, he's taking on PG in the same game, he's taking on LeBron, he's taking on all of their opponent's best players, and he wants to do that. He's
Mhm.
offering to do that. Is a really exciting piece for this team, and I think has seriously become the key piece to this. If they're still on this track of win now and win in the future, I think that it's shifted to Jonathan Kuminga as that true person who might be able to be a part of bridging those two things.
Well, it sure as hell ain't James Wiseman.
I think they would feel the same way as you, Tim. I think they
Right.
agree.
And so, look, they obviously moved on from that. You mentioned GP2, and I did want to, I don't know where to put Gary Payton II in the reasons to believe or reasons to
Yeah.
doubt right now. You mentioned earlier, one of the major issues for them on the road has been a lack of perimeter defense. And he proved himself last year as an elite perimeter defender. And I think he fits so well with the Warriors because he can be the role man with Steph Curry. He also showed he can be a solid spot up corner 3-point shooter last year. Any idea when he's going to be on the floor? Because I do think he's going to need to be a pretty significant part of things for them to repeat.
Yeah, so he hasn't started any team activity yet. He is getting shots up on the court. He's, continuing his rehab. When the Warriors acquired him, they said, okay, we're going to reevaluate him in a month. So what was the date of the trade deadline? It's February.
Yeah, mid-February.
February. So we're approaching no, it's only the first week of March. In a couple of weeks, we'll be in mid-March, and that's going to be a reevaluation date. Knowing the Warriors, that's not going to be the day that he returns. It's going to be another week. So I put him coming back a week, maybe a little bit over a week before entering the playoffs. They don't want his first game back to be game one of round one. But their hope is, kind of as you were saying, GP2 is a guy who is proven to fit really well in this system. He's not someone who they think is going to have to learn the ins and outs of how they play. They hope that even though he's been gone for most of the year, it's a plug and play kind of player. And that's what they're really counting on. But I agree, defense, that's what they're really hoping from him. They're hoping that they're going to get that same version of him that he was last season. And that was so crucial to that playoff run. But there is, I agree with you. It's hard to know where to put him in the reasons to be optimistic for them or reasons to be pessimistic for them, because it's, even though he played with them last year, it's just not a proven thing of what version of himself he's going to be when he comes back.
Right. And if he's back to being himself, and they have Wiggins and they have Draymond, this can be right back to being an elite defensive team. I'm not going to say a dominant defensive team because I don't think that exists in 2023 NBA basketball, but certainly a championship caliber defensive team. But we'll see. It should be a fun ride for however long it lasts for the Warriors. I don't think you're getting a playing game out there.
I'll take it. For my sake. Like, why not? I'm good diving right into the playoffs.
There you go. I think you'll be diving right in with the Warriors, and we'll see how big of a splash they make. Kendra, always a pleasure to have my favorite Andrews sister on. Really appreciate you joining me.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Adios, amigos.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.